For the third chapter would be the setting, the scene for the guest experience, and its hospitality principle is to provide a service setting that guests expect. When creating the show, a term coined by Walt Disney, the show refers to everyone and everything that interfaces with guests. It reflects his belief in a theme park should make guests feel like they are immersed in a living motion picture where everything the guest sees, feels, and senses is part of the story being told. Although employees and other customers are also part of any guest service organization, show, or service environment, the physical aspect of the service setting are equally important. In creating the show, this chapter focuses on the physical aspect of the service setting. Without question, the setting can be have a major influence on the guest experiences offered to guests. The environment is in effect the setting of a dramatic production or play in which the guest are is a participant. Occasionally, the environment is so significant to the enjoyment of the fantasy that should perhaps be considered as a part of the service itself. In creating the show, first we have the themes create fantasy. When a company uses the physical environment and other visual cues to create a show as part of its service experience, it is trying to transport its guests into a fantasy world. This strategy can be used for an amusement park, a restaurant, a hotel, a cruise ship, or any place where the hospitality experience would be enhanced by adding some fantasy. Many hospitality organizations have used the environment to create a sense and of fantasy through theming, as they have learned the value of creating a unique, memorable setting that enhances and contributes to the total guest experience. For example, when the environment serves as an important part of the dining experience, the theme of the setting within which the meal is presented needs to be consistent with the food that they serve. Next, to theme or not to theme. Theming can effectively tie all the elements of the service experience together, yet by its very nature, a themed service may limit the appeal of the service offering to some people. And theming also limits the sort of new ventures of service products that such a company can provide because any new elements must remain consistent with the theme. Therefore, the decision whether to theme or not must be considered very carefully. Next, control and focus. To maintain the illusion of fantasy in a theme service setting, the experience, as is true of any good story, must be controlled and focused. The guest should see what the storyteller wants them to see. This can be accomplished in a variety of ways. In a theme park, again, most attractions are designed to control the experience. Rides are designed to give guests the feeling of moving through a story. Guests are positioned to see the right visual cues and not the wrong ones. In a Pirates and a Caribbean of a haunted mansion, the positioning of the cars and the ride and the use of light and dark, smell, the pace of the ride and other elements of the environment create the experience that the storyteller um, envisioned. Also, lighting is an important feature of most service setting. Some guest experience are best delivered in bright lights, some are in dim. Glare at lights at eye level are unpleasant in any setting. Um, Next is, so why is the environment important? Hospitality managers must pay attention to the environment for several reasons. It influences guest expectation, creates and maintains the mood that has positive effects to the employees. First, we have the guest expectations. The environment influences the guest expectation even before the service of is delivered. if the out if the outside of the restaurant is dirty, guests will enter with negative expectation if they enter at all. And kanang for example, objectively that number of cigarette butts on the ground next to the restaurant's front door has nothing to do with the chef's ability to prepare a high quality meal and the staff's ability to present it, but guests do not view the environment objectively. If the restaurant does not care enough to clean up outside its building, the guest may conclude that it does not clean up in the kitchens either, and probably does not care about how it prepares the meal. Many guests evaluate restaurants by using the restroom test to see how much the restaurant cares about cleanliness. Good restaurant managers make sure that procedures are in place to keep the restroom clean. Next is the guest mood. Second, the environment sets and maintains the mood after the guest begins to guest experience. Once the guest enters the Magic Kingdom, for example, the entire focus on its establishing the fantasy and maintaining the magic word one way to do, and so maintain the consistency between what the guest expect to see and what the guest actually sees. Guests expect that cast member in Disney cost, costumes to say in character, and they do. They are not allowed to speak because if they did, Mickey would probably not sound the way he does in the cartoons. So, with that, the employee satisfaction. A third contribution of the service setting to the guest experience is its effect on a group of people who do not even use the service, the employees who produce it. And nobody it should be supportive of and compatible with the employee's experience as well. And next, setting as part of service. The environment may serve merely as a neutral backdrop for some guest experience, but for many organizations, the environment is so significant to the success of its guest experience that is represent a fourth important component to manage. For hospitality managers, the setting for such guest experience should be considered as part of the service itself. And the quality of the environment context within the guest experience occurs affect the quality of the experience itself, and also guest opinion of the hospitality organization's overall quality. So the functional value of the setting. Finally, the environment is important for several um, pragmatic functional reasons. The guest relies on the hospitality organization to create an environment that is safe and easy to use and understand. Environment features must be such that the guest can easily and safely enter, experience, and then leave without getting lost, hurt, and disoriented. For the modern hospitality organizations, the issue of the safety and security has become more important than ever before. So in this model, how this is how the service environment affect the guest. Ambient conditions. Ambient conditions in the environment, the ergonomic factors such as temperature, humidity, air quality, smell, sound, physical comfort, and light after and light affect the nature of the guest expectation, diba? Then the use of space. The second environmental category is the use of space. It refers to how the equipment and furnishings are arranged in the hospitality service settings, the size and shape of those objects, their accessibility to the customers, and the spatial relationship among them. Most hospitality organizations must want guests to relax and enjoy the guest experience because guests cannot relax if they are fear of their safety. Managers must provide a safe and secure environment. And it's simple as that. Next is the site symbols and artifacts. Sound is often an important what call this one? Unsa ni? Important environmental factor. A convenience store that was plagued by some teenagers hanging out at the store and bothering patrons began playing the elevator music through its sound system, unable to fit the classic music to their hip self-image. The troublemakers move on. The basic principle, of course, is that environmental sounds should serve as purpose. In general, the sounds should complement the experience that the organization is trying to provide to its target guest. Again, it in general, but with many exceptions, louder, faster music in the service setting appeals to younger, fact guest behavior. And to the other people, the last component of the environment the other is the other people in it, the employees, other guests, or perhaps even audio animatronics creation that guests come to think of as real people. Guests often want to see other guests. If they are alone, they wonder why. Um, they they think that, are they foolish to be where no one else is? No one likes to eat in an empty restaurant. You can eat alone at home. A positive eating experience generally requires the presence of other diners enjoying their meals. Guests of many hospitality organizations expect to see other people also enjoying the experience, and happiness and satisfactions are contagious. Many service settings would feel depressing and lonely without other guests, diba? Then the service scape, temperature, smell, sounds, light, signs, physical structures, furnishings, green space, open space, and other people. Although no guest ever singles out or even notices all elements within the environment, they do combine to create an overall unified impression of the environment. Factors that moderate individual responses. Not only do different guests respond differently to the same environment, but even the same guest may respond differently from day to day or even hour to hour. Although the hospitality organization usually provides the same servicescape elements for everyone, it should always remember the uniqueness of guests. The responding to the servicescape, a guest can respond to a service setting in one or more of three ways. The what do you call this one? Physiological, cognitive, and emotional. Physiological responses, the senses with results primarily form the service escapes effects on the guest senses, as seen in this figure. Most of sociological responses to the environment are responses to such ambient conditions as temperature, humidity, air quality, smells, sounds, and light. For the cognitive responses, expectation, and the servicescape, the cognitive impact of an experience depend on the knowledge that guest brings to the experience. Guests enter every experience with a set of expectation based on what they have seen or heard about and done before. And for the emotional responses. Finally, the customer may react emotionally to the servicescape. Old graduates get choked up when they are returned for reunions at their college campuses. Children and adults alike are emotionally touched by holidays decorations. The flags are flying, the breeze blowing, the dramatic music and the majesty of the distinguished speakers have strong emotional impact on many American visitors to Epcot's American Adventure. Young children have the same emotional reactions when for example, SpongeBob SquarePants walks by. It not that only represents an individual physical act, but also builds an emotional tie to the entire park experience that may children never forget. And for the good hospitality managers have learned to use um, arousal cues effectively. For example, in the morning when guests are flooding into a theme park, they might hear upbeat, up-tempo music. Employees would greet guests in strong, enthusiastic voices to sustain with a positive feeling and high, what you call that, high level of energy which guests come into the park. When guests are leaving at the end of the day, both the music and the final comments of the employees should probably be sedate and restrained to be consonant with the lower arousal level of the tired guest. So the bottom line: come and stay or stay away. These three response factors, sociological, cognitive, and emotional, operating together lead the guest to make one of two choices: to become patrons or to give their business elsewhere. Leaving the service and its delivery out of the equation, the guest can decide that the experience of the service environment was, on the whole, positive or negative. Servicescape perception can encourage the guest to stay longer and come again, or go away and stay away. Hospitality organizations must work hard to create environments that encourage the longer stays and repeat visits that result in increased revenues. That's all. Thank you.